Morning, Georgina.
Morning.
Talk us through what happened to you then, because it was a pretty grim situation.
Yeah, we were looking for a dog, so I looked in the local papers and answered an advert and rang a guy up and he said to come and see. He'd got a few bitches in, which we wanted. So I arranged to go meet him. I got a phone call the next day and he said that to say he was going all that way to Cumbria, he'd come down and meet us halfway. So we arranged that. I went to meet him. He turned up in a battered old car with a load of carriers in the back, with puppies in the back.
Right.
So he brought a little puppy out, little black Labrador, and I could tell virtually the minute we got her out that she was ill. She was just very limp. Nose was all white. She looked awful. So my husband looked and said, you know, do you want to take her? So I said, yeah, pay the man. So obviously...
Weren't you suspicious?
Very. But unfortunately, you know, your heart rules your head and you do these things. So we brought her home and the next morning she was at the vet's and most of the day she was in there because she'd got respiratory problems, she was riddled with worms, she'd got mites, she'd got skin diseases.
Everything?
Everything. Ears were all swollen. So she was in a pretty bad way.
Yeah.
But we obviously got her in at the right time. They managed to get her back to health, but she'd not been socialised either. So if you touched her, she was very frightened. And it took quite some time for her to trust people.
So how old was she, Georgina?
We think she was about 6 weeks old.
Right.
He told me she was 12.
Yeah.
But my vet said that he thought she was a lot younger.
And you had other dogs in the car when you went along to this garage?
Yes. Yeah, there was another couple waiting to buy another dog.
Yeah.
Which was a bit disturbing as well, because they'd never had a dog. So, you know, for them to take that on, because they've had no dogs at all, so it would have been quite scary for them.
So presumably, I mean, you were wanting to, as we all would, save a little bit of money, rather than going to an established breeder.
Yeah, well, he's on, got a website, so he'd got an established kennels, so, you know, I did try and do everything the right way, but unfortunately, didn't realise that he was the sort of man that he was, so... you know, with him offering to bring the dog down, I knew I should have really gone to see the mother and father, but, you know, thought he was just being kind, really.
What happened when you got the dog home?
She was just very limp and, you know, she just sat on the floor, wouldn't move, was just very ill. So there's not a lot we could do with her. We just put her in a bed, kept her warm, because I couldn't get her to the vet then, and we took her to the vet in the morning.
We're going to hear from a lady from the Pet Advertising Advisory Group, some official advice for you on how you can avoid the pitfalls of buying animals off the record, if you like. But this is a remarkable story. I'm particularly interested to find out how it wound up. BBC Radio Nottingham. But let's go back to Georgina. You said the dog was in an awful state when you got him home. This must have cost you a fortune.
Yeah, we did pay a lot in vet bills, obviously, because she'd got various things, and most of the things were ongoing. The skin problem, that took about 2 months, really, to clear up. The eye infections, that wasn't too bad. The worms we cured quite easily, but the other side was the socialising, so that took the longest out of anything. So the money side, you know, we did spend a lot of money on her, and we still do now.
What's it cost you?
Thousands.
So,
yeah.
Saving a couple of hundred in the first place, it was a false economy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Georgina, I don't want you to name the man who you bought him from, but what's happened to him, and did you try and take action?
Yes, I rang him and explained about the dog. He did offer me my money back, but...
I should think he did.
Yeah. He actually accused me that it was my fault for the dog being ill. He said it was in perfect health when it left his place.
Yeah.
And I got into quite a heated conversation with them.
Is he still selling dogs?
No, he's been banned for life and done for 52 counts of cruelty.
Good.
So, obviously, his establishment was closed down and he was arrested. So, hopefully, he won't start again, but... you know, there's a big chance that he probably will do.
All right, Georgina. Clarissa Baldwin is the chair of the Pet Advertising Advisory Group. Good morning, Clarissa.
Good morning.
You've been listening to Georgina's story. It's shocking, isn't it?
Absolutely terrible, and huge sympathies to Georgina. And sadly, she's not alone. Very many hundreds, thousands of people are facing much the same sort of thing. In fact, last year there were nearly 5,000 complaints to Consumer Direct on pet issues, which is almost doubled since 2007. 6. The trouble is, I'm sure there are many more out there, but people get so emotionally in them up, and then they don't go and complain, because obviously the answer is going to be, well, take the dog back, get your money back, that sort of thing. People don't want to do that. They're prepared to spend thousands of pounds to get their dogs right.
What sort of action can be taken against people of the like that sold Georgina this lab?
Well, there are laws. There's the Breeding and Sale of Dogs Welfare Act, and there's the Animal Welfare Act. The trouble is enforcement, and so many of these breeders are sitting down leafy lanes where nobody necessarily knows they're there, and you pick up a mobile phone and you ring them, and they say, we'll meet you on the service stations, and people think, how kind of these people to come out and deliver my dog to me.
Georgina's nodding, Clarissa, yeah.
And we hear it so often, and we're constantly putting out the message, for goodness sake, do think about the sort of dog you want and where to get it from, and don't be beguiled by some of these people putting out these ridiculous stories.
What then, what's the best way forward if you do get to take recourse?
Well, Consumer Direct is the people to complain to, and your local authorities to check whether these people have got licences to breed, and if they haven't, let's make sure that the local authority does enforce the law that exists. I mean, we would still, that's the Pet Advertising Advisory Group and Dogs Trust, would like to see dogs banned from pet shops, for instance. There's no way to sell a dog, or a cat for that matter. And the Pet Advertising Advisory Group is trying to do something about that as well. But DEFRA have other things on their mind, I think, at the moment, rather than take up this issue. But yeah, I mean, I know it's wonderful that Georgina did follow through. I wish other people would do the same. We would love to hear on the PAAG website of anybody that's had a similar problem and what they've done about it, or we would take it up as well.
Are you able to find?
Well, we're very prepared to certainly contact Consumer Direct to see what they can do about it. I mean, obviously every story is slightly different, but we'd love to hear about it, and if we can do something, we most certainly will.
Clarissa, if you don't mind, just stay with us a little bit longer. I'm Richard Spur. Jill has called us at BBC Radio Nottingham. She says that she sees adverts for puppies in the local papers every day. She wishes someone would do something about it. It's true, isn't it, Clarissa? The papers are full of these adverts, and presumably some of them are genuine.
Some of them are absolutely genuine. And one of your other callers just now was talking about, can't we do something about stopping these advertisements? Well, we'd love to stop them. But what we have done is to give publishers what we call fillers. So when they have space in their papers, they can say to people, for goodness sake, beware, make sure you see the mother with the puppies, and all these sort of cautionary notes that we give out. Unfortunately, I think, newspapers have it, and so it doesn't get in there all that often, and for charities to advertise and pay for in every newspaper, it would be enormously expensive.
So is it mainly a question of instinct then? When you do something from the small ads, you need to go and see it, and if you've got any suspicions, just don't do it. Is that what that is?
Any suspicions, don't do it. I mean, it is a 15-year commitment, and I know a dog doesn't cost as much as a house or a car, but when we go to buy a house or a car, we do ask a lot of questions, and that's what we should do when we're buying a dog. I mean, first of all, think about what sort of dog fits your lifestyle. Don't buy a Labrador if you're a couch potato. But, I mean, those sort of things need to be asked before you go out and buy a dog. And then find out, where these dogs were bred. Make sure you've got all the paperwork. It's pedigrees, it's registration papers. And do ask for you to be able to bring the dog back if within 24 hours and you've taken it to your vet, the vet says there are problems. And it isn't just breeding, it's the socialisation. It's desperately important that puppies are socialised from a very early age, 4 weeks old, 6 weeks old, 8 weeks old. Before they're sold, they need to hear noises, see different people, all these sort of things, learn how to play. And in puppy farms, frankly, they get none of that.
Just to finish, Georgina, do you want to ask Clarissa anything or tell her anything more about your situation?
No, apart from the fact that the chap hopefully has been done for this, but, on the webpage he had, it was all legitimate. He is licensed, but he just was bordering on, for the authorities that they couldn't do anything about it, because he ran it just to the point where it was good enough for them. So obviously, he was a legitimate breeder. So obviously there's not much more I could have done. I was just taken in by him, and obviously with Molly, my little dog, being so ill, you know, they had her away from him.
I think that's the thing. You know, so many people do feel like it's the emotional tie that you get. You bond so quickly with a new dog or cat, and people don't want to take them back. They don't want to put them back into this misery that they've come from.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining us, both of you. Clarissa from the Pet Advertising Advisory Group, and Georgina